In the year 2020 and 2021, certain parts of the United States saw a huge uptick in crime and homelessness and drug use, but in Idaho, that didn't really happen. Today, I'm going to talk about the one component that a lot of people believe is behind all of these negative changes and whether Idaho is going to go that route or not. And that issue is about legalizing marijuana. Stick around. Hey everybody, my name is Trent and I'm a realtor here in Idaho. If you're interested in learning what it's like to live, eat, sleep, work, play, or buy real estate here in Idaho, then this is the channel for you. So make sure you tap the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so every time I come out with a new video, you get notified. Now, I'm getting calls every single week from people just like you watching the channel. They're interested in what it's like living here. They want to know what the market's doing. Is there jobs? Just the details that I might not go into on the channel. So if that's you, make sure you reach out with an email, a text message, or a phone call. I love talking to people about what it's like getting set up here and living here. I've been here for 30 years. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, so give me a call. Now, will Idaho be the last to fall? For some of you guys hearing me say that, you're like, Trent, aren't you being a little bit dramatic? It's just marijuana. It's not like it's meth. What's the problem? Well, for those people who aren't living in states where it is legal, it is a big deal. They've seen what has happened in some of these cities and states where it's been made legal. And I'm not saying that that's what caused the issues that are happening right now in Portland, Seattle, LA. I'm not saying that, but some people see that as being a contributing factor to these problems. So for me, just remember, I'm a dumb real estate agent that happens to know how to use a camera, a green screen, and editing software, okay? I was curious on this subject myself, so I reached out to a spokesperson at Kind Idaho, which is the group that's trying to get the initiative on the ballot to make medical marijuana legal. And then I reached out to a member of the House of Representatives who was kind enough to do a Zoom interview with me and let me ask my questions. I will warn you, she is in government, and some of the answers I had to, they're long answers, and then I try to clarify at the end. Hopefully you understand what she's saying and get the gist of what the Idaho government's doing. There's always convolution, but it's fine. And that's not on her. That's just, I think that's what you have to do to survive in government as a public servant. So at the end of this video, guys, if you have an opinion, I want to know, please leave me a comment. Do you think it should be legal? Do you think it should stay illegal? Do you think that this subject is just kind of silly and it's not really a big deal and it should have never been illegal? Let me know. Leave a comment. I read all of those. I love the feedback. Helps me get better at doing these videos. But please keep in mind when you're leaving those comments, I already admitted I'm a dumb real estate agent. I am not CNN. I'm not Fox News. I'm not a reporter. I don't have a journalist background. I just am a curious guy and I wanted to share that information with you guys. So let's dive in. The interview that I did first was with Joe at Kind Idaho. And Joe, I really enjoyed talking with Joe. He seems like a real laid back guy. And honestly, he brought up some good points. I don't think that they have any ill intent. I know that a lot of people assume they try to get medical marijuana legalized so then they can get recreational marijuana legalized and then they can just push all drugs to be made legal, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. Although I'm seeing what's happening in Seattle and Portland where they're legalizing small amounts of almost any drug, which to me is kind of terrifying growing up in a conservative state. So I talked with him, I asked my questions. I think that there's some stuff that we can learn from talking to them, but I just wanted to get the information from the horse's mouth so that there's no assumptions. And you can believe him or not. If you don't, or if you do, let me know that in the comments as well. So I'm gonna play that interview now, and then after that, I'll play you the interview that I did with a member of the House of Representatives. Let's dive in, man. Go ahead and give me your name and who you're with and what you do with them.
Okay, I am Joe Evans. I work with Kind Idaho, and right now Kind Idaho is working on the medical marijuana initiative for the state of Idaho. Okay, now this is a fairly decent plan. It's fairly ambitious, provides options for personal grow, allows you to grow it, raise it, sell it, tax it here in the state of Idaho, as opposed to our current arrangement where most of our people are going across the border. It also makes it legal so that those people who can use it, who have problems with breaking the law, actually feel more comfortable using medical marijuana, where medical marijuana is preferred to the opioids and several other options that are currently being used to substitute here in the state of Idaho right now.
Can I ask who? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you guys are a very organized, focused group, but where's the funding coming from right now to do all this?
Donors. Out of our pocket. We don't have any out-of-state donors right now. And most of our donations are actually coming from family, friends.
So here's the question I'm sure people they're asking and maybe believing. Do you guys have the intention of introducing medical marijuana to eventually just make it recreational so that you can change this state to a democratic state, socialist state that makes everybody reliant on the government and we become slaves?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
The emphasis is on medical marijuana. Okay. This is about careful, monitored, regulated, safe use of marijuana for conditions in which marijuana has been proven to be helpful. Now, we talk about the issues of opioids. Yeah, we have an opioid epidemic here in the state of Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's a black market trade for it. Opioids are here. Doctors have overprescribed it. Doctors may even continue to overprescribe it. We have people who continue to use it recreationally, even though it is a prescription based, so the thing is, even with a medical, we can call it medical marijuana all we want. People are going to try and access it for recreational use. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the opioids. They get a medical prescription, they use it for recreational use.
Do you think marijuana makes us more empathetic and socialist in a ruinous fashion? Is there ruinous empathy that comes from smoking marijuana where you're not looking out for your own best interests and just have all these really good ideas of love and peace that really lead to death and destruction?
Well, the irony is all these ideas of love and peace do lead to death and destruction. But I'm not going to kick marijuana just because it creates a greater degree of empathy, among the people in our community, among the people in our lives. I don't think empathy is a bad thing right now. Okay. This is my argument with C. Scott Grow and the fact that he wants to keep Idaho a marijuana-free state. Okay. Treasure Valley, 800,000 people live in here. Roughly a little bit more than a third of the state. Mm-hmm. Just shy of half lives in the Treasure Valley. And the 800,000 people that live in the greater Boise metro area are responsible for $2 million in marijuana sales across the border in Ontario, Oregon.
How do they know that?
Because the drugs company or the dispensaries in Ontario have to report their sales to the state of Oregon.
Oh, really?
So a county with a population of, I think it's like 10,000 people, is responsible for 10% of the marijuana sales in Oregon.
Wow.
$2 million a weekend.
Oh, a weekend.
Weekend.
Oh, wow.
A weekend.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess, what about, this is going to sound really cheesy, but more money, more problems. There's a lot of tax revenue, but is it worth the problems that come with legalizing marijuana? Because it seems what is happening is states that legalize marijuana go boom. They get a ton of people from all over the country wanting to move there, like Denver and Portland and Seattle.
Yeah.
And they were already big, but now it's like, I talked to a lot of these people that are there and they're like, oh my gosh, don't legalize it. It's going to gentrify the place. And I go, well, it's not legalized and it's already an issue. But
Correct.
I mean, would it make it worse, or does it actually supply enough opportunity for the locals to make good money, or does it just create a magnet for wealthy people to move here and push everybody out?
Yeah, and that's one of those problems, because right now big marijuana is representative in most of those industrial areas where you've seen the gentrification, where you've seen that process occur. Now, Idaho continues to be one of those small spaces, and this is even doubled down because of the issues with COVID. You know, everybody finally figured out, hey, I can work remote. Where is the place in the United States with a low cost of living, with a beautiful environment, you know, with parks and pretty trees, so I can go out and do my little nature walks and, you know.
Alaska. So, somebody paid me to say that.
I'm sure they did. Alaska, you know, Ohio. Yeah. Wait, yeah. Ohio? No, but the thing is it doesn't matter whether it was legalized or not. Denver was going to go blue regardless of the marijuana. You were going to see migration there as housing prices and taxes exploded in California. Mm. You know, you're seeing a mass migration from California. You were seeing everybody run from California, because California, despite being the 7th largest economy in the world.
I heard 5th.
5th. It changed it. But the thing is, 7th, 5th, you know, California is larger, has a stronger economy than 98% of the countries in the world right now. But it's failing. Reason why is because it's overtaxed. You're dealing with housing limitations. You're dealing with housing prices. And you're dealing with the fact that the prisons continue to have problems. Crime continues to go up because homelessness, because people can't afford houses on the wages they're paid. And we're seeing that problem all across the United States. So you can't say that issue is drugs. You can't say that issue is legalization of marijuana. We have a housing crisis in the United States right now. And that housing crisis was not caused by marijuana. Yeah. So literally, our state right now is selling somewhere between $3 and $3.5 million a weekend to people who are self-medicating. Because you're not seeing a $3.5 million in drugs coming across the border, you know, and seeing people stoned. You're not seeing them wasted. You're not seeing them homeless on the street. You're not seeing them bum, you know, a joint. These are people who drive across the border, 3.5 million sales a week. And they're driving back, and they're going to work right alongside you and I. They're working in the shops. They're doing computer programming. They're driving their cars.
Yeah. So are you saying, is your belief that, hey, if this was to cause the problems that our senators and you know, House members are saying, we'd already be seeing it because there's already so much happening. It's already coming into the state that's not being stopped.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, it's here. It's here to the tune of 3.5 million to 4 million a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if we were to see those problems, so essentially it's still happening. What you're saying is, hey, all this is still happening, but you're making criminals out of good people and you're losing out on tax revenue for a moral ideology.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where we are at right now.
In your opinion, in your team's opinion, I mean, what are the dangers and the downsides to legalizing medical marijuana? Are there any?
There's always going to be the transition stage. Okay. Now, most of these other states, they had that brief period of transition where, you know, everybody was learning how to use the drugs, how to work with the legalization process, how to monitor, manage, you know, and how best to affect certain patterns. You know, in a lot of cases, what we saw was big industry come in. We saw rich people come in. You know, they came in, they set up their dispensaries, they set up their grows, and you still ended up with a lot of local people being shut out of the industry. Okay. You know, if you were a local guy who decided you wanted to set up your own dispensary, sorry, the 12 licenses that were available were just outbid by Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, and Ice-T.
What's hit on the changes that took place? I'm still fuzzy on the story, but did you guys get the signatures in the counties and had the initiative ready to go, and then they changed it to 36 counties? Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yes, I can. So Senate Bill, I think it was 1110. The idea was the requirement for 36 counties because they wanted to make the petition process as difficult as possible. And a lot of this comes from the faith that our GOP leadership believes in the great Republic of Idaho. Not the great state, the great republic. They want a Republican form of government in the state of Idaho. Not a democracy, not a one vote, one person. They want a republic of Idaho. Okay. That issue aside, what they wanted to do is they wanted to take away the power of the citizens initiative. So they moved it from, okay, we have 35 districts, and right now it is the majority of the districts have to meet the 6% requirement. So that is 18 of 35. Okay, they wrote the law that required 35 of 35 so that we needed an even distribution for the 6% of the state. We needed 6% of the signatures from each district. Now, the Idaho Medical Marijuana Act 2022 is grandfathered in. We only need 16. Or, yeah, 17. We only need 17 of the districts at 6% to qualify. Reason why is because we were filed before the session even started, and in order for them to affect us with the 35, they would have had to have done it retroactively.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a violation. Now, the thing is, we are the only active petition right now that can do the 17 districts. The other 7 all require all 35 districts unless the Idaho State Supreme Court overturns Senate Bill 1110. And we are expecting news from that any day now.
Interesting.
You know,
so they tried
Idaho
to
court ruling is.
They tried to put a stick in the spokes, but unfortunately we're a little late. The bike had already passed. Is that?
Yeah, the bike had already passed.
I only have a couple more minutes. I do have one last question.
Okay.
Why are you putting so much time into this? Why are you so passionate about?
Okay. Reasons for my passion. I am a U.S. military veteran. I have an awful lot of friends and family. Both of my children are also military veterans. Neither one of them combat, fortunately. Yes. But I have a lot of friends and family who suffer from post-traumatic stress injury. Also, my time in the military intelligence, it was a co-ed environment. A significant number of my fellow service members suffered military sexual trauma. A lot of them find that medical use of marijuana helps them heal. It helps them maintain a steady state of mind. It helps them remain functional. It helps them to be better parents. It helps them to be better citizens. It helps them to be better members of their community. And then I have other friends who are in late stages of debilitating diseases that cause significant pain. Medical marijuana is a pain management program for them. I have family members that suffer from endometriosis. You know, marijuana is the only pain management program that works for them that doesn't come with psychotic episodes. You know, right now, too many of them are self-medicating because they don't have access to a physician or a dispensary. they're part of that $2 million a weekend in sales that drives across the river, every weekend to pick up something to manage their pain. And I want them to be able to drive back across the border with their medicine without worrying about being picked up, hauled off to jail, refused access to their medicine because they are in jail or prison.
I think that's a great spot to end it, Joe. Man, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trent.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you brought up some really good points, and now I can go and bounce this off. I reached out to several House members of our House of Representatives, trying to get an interview with one of them.
So what do you guys think? Do you think Joe is full of it and he's actually an inside infiltrator who's trying to destroy Idaho for his own personal gain? Or do you think he really does care about people and he's just trying to provide access to a medicine for people that need it? I know some of the questions that I asked are a little bit tongue in cheek, like I wasn't asking him very seriously. It's because I'm not a journalist. I'm not a reporter. I'm not trying to drill him. I'm just wanting to ask the question to find out what's the truth behind it. Let me know if you think that he's lying or if you think that I should have, asked further questions. To me, it was just a general conversation that I recorded so I could share it with you guys so you guys can decide. But leave a comment, let me know. Next, I'm going to play the interview I did with Julianne Young. She is a member of the House of Representatives out of Blackfoot, Idaho. She was very kind to be able to come on and allow me to record her in an interview. I imagine it's a lot of pressure around talking about this subject because she is a public servant and people will see this, and her constituents who vote her in or vote her out are going to watch this. So you'll see in some of her answers, I feel like, man, I didn't really get the clear answer I wanted, but I tried to boil it down and I tried to get the information that I could. And hopefully you understand the position a little bit better that the Idaho government is taking on this topic. So here's that interview.
You ready to start?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay, so it's Julianne, right? I'm pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be a member of the House of Representatives.
Certainly, Trent. Representative Julianne Young. I'm from Blackfoot, Idaho. Bingham County is my legislative district. It's about 40,000 people. And I'm a mom. I am very passionate about America and freedom. And I'm a strong believer in the idea that you've got to get involved and make a difference if you expect that you're going to see things improve or change for the better. So that's why I'm here. And this is my second term in office. The end of my second term, each term's 2 years. So this next year will be my 4th year serving in the Idaho House of Representatives.
Okay, well, today I have you on because we are going to talk about the legalization of medicinal marijuana. That's obviously a really hot point in the country right now in news. All the states surrounding Idaho have legalized it for medicinal use, but Idaho has not followed suit. So I just wanted to talk to you about that today. From your perspective, the House of Representatives, what is the stance that's being taken right now by the majority when it comes to legalizing medical marijuana?
I want to be careful because I don't represent the House in any way. I represent myself as an individual legislator.
Okay.
And the state doesn't really have a position other than our current law, which is that marijuana is illegal in the state of Idaho. I think that's the only place you could go for an official position. But
Gotcha.
I think the good indicator would be the constitutional amendment that got voted on this last session. And that amendment would have made sure that any changes to our drug law were made through a very careful, deliberative process instead of just by a majority vote of the people. And
I see.
I think that vote is a reflection of the concern that we have that this be a very well thought out type of policy. It's not anything that, let me just back up a second. If you look at the legislative process, you find that you have a bill, and generally you work on a bill for a year before you even bring it to the committee. And it has to go to either the House or the Senate first. And it goes through a committee process where they ask all kinds of questions. They might suggest amendments. They might reject it and say, take it back and work on it some more. We're not willing to even go forward with an amendment at this point in time. Or if you can get good support, then it will go forward. And if the committee sends it to the floor, then it goes through another vetting process on the House floor where people have a chance to raise concerns, objections, debate it, and it gets another vote. Then you go through the same exact thing on the other side of our representative government, either in the House or the Senate, depending on where it started. So 4 times it goes through that kind of scrutiny. And whoever brings that bill is on the hook to answer all the questions. Where did you get the legislation? How much is it going to cost? How do you see this being implemented? How is it going to impact, you name the group? And those answers to those questions are all part of public record. And so it's just a very, very rigorous process, and there's accountability built in.
Yeah.
Because those answers were part of the public record. And if something goes wrong after the fact, you know who made the mistake because you have a record of what they believed. And when it turns out different, you can say, wow, you were off base on that one. And the people have a vote then.
Gotcha.
And if somebody really messes up, they're accountable to their constituents. So it's really a very rigorous process. On the other hand, when you run a ballot initiative, that initiative gets just one up or down vote by the people. And a lot of those people never have a chance to ask any kind of in-depth questions. And the advertising that's going to take place may or may not be accurate. And if it isn't accurate, no one's really accountable for it. And there's really nothing you can do about it after the fact. And so while the initiative process can have a place, and it definitely can set a direction for some things, it's not a process that lends itself to real careful, thoughtful work. It's more of a Hail Mary type of a process.
Yeah.
And so I think the vote this last year on that constitutional amendment just says that the legislature recognizes that this is a very complicated issue. And we want to make sure that any changes that get made to our drug policy in the state of Idaho are well thought out and well crafted.
I see. So I don't want to oversimplify this, but I do want to simplify what you said so that I can make sure I understand. With such an important topic, such an important issue like this that has very vast implications, right? I mean, we've seen what's happened in some of the states that have legalized it. And if you only look at the profit, you go, this is amazing. But if you look at some of the more money, more problems type situation, you go, wow, this could be a really big issue. So maybe it's not best to just leave that to the public opinion. You're saying this needs to go through a very rigorous political government pathway.
An accountable
pathway so that, because and I don't disagree with that, because I was a security salesman and installer over in Spokane when I-502 was legalized. And I talked with a lot of the shop owners. I talked with the growers because this was history being made, right? And come to find out, the way it was thrown together made no sense. I mean, even the stuff that I had to deal with like surveillance requirements, I went, you're talking about $150,000 surveillance system for a little pot shop. Is that like, you're talking Las Vegas style surveillance? Is this really what you want? And they go, oh, no, hang on. And so then they came back with an amendment. And I was like, this isn't going to do you any good. You're basically taking pictures at that point. And they're like, okay, let's figure this out. And so I do see what you're saying, that, yeah, if this is slapped together, it can get really messy really quick. So that's interesting. So would you say then with everything you said, is the House of Representatives, is the legislative branch opposed and going, we'll never legalize this? Or are they saying, no, we are going to look very, very closely before we even decide? Because from what I've heard and the stories I've heard and read, it made it sound like they were trying to change the Constitution so that it could never become legal, ever. But what you're saying is, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to shrink this down. We're trying to make sure that this has accountability every step of the way. Did I summarize that well?
I think you did. I
don't know if my summary was any shorter than what you said, but I'm trying.
No, you're great. And there is sympathy in the House, in particular, for recognizing some of the concerns that the public has, but we do want to make sure that it has the same kind of accountability that is built into other substances that could be harmful, and that it's not just it's not slapstick. I'll just say that.
I see. The reason I reached out to you is because I saw a quote in the idahostatesman.com talking about potentially blocking it from the voters. And you said something along the lines of, I don't want to be the one to take this decision away from our voters. Is that an accurate quote?
Boy, I've said a lot of things. I'd have to know the context to know
I'll put it on the video. I'll let people see exactly what you said. But do you mind if I ask what's your personal stance on this? Do you have an opinion you'd like to share on the medicinal use of marijuana?
I believe that the quote that you're referring to was in reference to putting that constitutional amendment on the ballot for the voters. Yes. And I do think that the people ought to have an opportunity to have a voice in the process, even by which these kind of decisions are made. And then back up, you asked another question.
I asked what was
connecting the dots.
Can you share, do you feel like sharing your personal views on this issue?
On the legalization of marijuana?
Yeah.
For me as a legislator, my number one job is to protect freedom. And freedom isn't just the ability to do anything you want anytime, because that's anarchy, that's chaos, right?
Yeah.
And where there's chaos, there is no freedom, because you can't get anything done and you never know what's going to happen to you next.
Yeah, so, freedom without discipline is ruinous, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So we have government so that we protect specific elements of freedom. Sometimes we call it, if you want to get philosophical, but that would be life, liberty, property, and knowledge. And so whenever I look at a policy, I'm asking myself, does this promote or secure life, liberty, property, and knowledge, which, includes being honest, transparent, all of those things.
Yeah.
So when I look at the marijuana industry in general, I see an industry that is marketing a product that could potentially have significant impacts on life and health. And a lot of that marketing that takes place, and I'm speaking very broadly here, is dishonest. It's deceptive marketing. And it's marketing a product that's addictive. And because it's addictive, in many ways, this industry takes advantage of some of the most vulnerable members of our society in order to make a profit. And so, speaking very generally about the industry and not about how we're going to say what it gets used for, right? I see this as an industry that people in my district, and I think people all over the state, really have some legitimate concerns about whether this is an industry that's going to support a place where life, liberty, property, and knowledge are protected. I think it arguably undermines a lot of those things. And you see that when you look at other states where it's just been completely legalized, and you see the really horrific impacts. And I'm not going to go into all those, but I have talked personally with legislators from some of these other states in terms of explosive growth of government programs and services, increases in taxation, increases in crime rates, and other negative impacts to the health and the well-being of kids and families and communities. I'm not sure that that's kind of the hard and fast, clear-cut answer that you're looking for, but like we were saying, it's really a complicated topic.
Yeah.
And those are definitely things that I weigh.
So one issue that the spokesperson from Kind Idaho mentioned, I wanted to bring up and see what you thought of this statement. He said, if marijuana caused all of these issues that we're being told by our government they cause, we would already be seeing them in Idaho because they track the sales. And he says at least $2 million a week of legal marijuana in Washington and Oregon comes into Idaho. What do you think of that statement, that with all the marijuana that is coming into Idaho illegally from legal states, if we would be seeing a lot of these mental health issues, a lot of crime increase, wouldn't we already see that?
Yeah, that's really an interesting argument. We certainly do struggle with those issues in the state of Idaho. We have mental health concerns.
Yeah, mental health has been an issue for a long time. Mm-hmm.
We do have some concerns. We have criminal activity in the state. We have families that struggle. We are seeing a growth in our health and welfare budget. So I don't know that you can say marijuana doesn't cause any of these problems because it's already here and we don't have any of these problems. We do have those problems. For me, the question is, do we want more of them?
I see. So I don't feel like you totally answered, and that's okay. If you don't feel like, hey, I feel like sharing my own personal opinion on this vlog that we're doing today, but I want to ask again, what is your stance? Do you see a way forward for this to be legalized in a responsible, accountable way in the state of Idaho? And would that be a good or bad thing in your mind?
Yeah. So I don't know that I can get a lot more specific than what I said, other than certainly if we use our existing processes, and then that's the baseline. And we do have kinds of marijuana. It's not marijuana because that's the street name for it, but that are available through those processes. And I guess as far as where we could go between where we are now and where some people would like us to be, I guess would have to be something we'd look at. But those are definitely the concerns that I'm looking at and the questions that I'm asking myself when I look at these policies. I don't want anything loose, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think if what you're saying is true and that's the process and it really is being evaluated with an open mind and everything being considered, I think that's the best we can ask for from our government branch, because nobody wants to see an iron fist on any issue, and nobody wants to see such important issues being played loosey-goosey, especially seeing what's happening with what's going on in big cities. And I think, there's obviously a lot of things that have happened over the last year in big cities, so not everything can be attributed to it, but the question does rise, or it needs to be asked, how much of legalization of marijuana can be attributed? Because now they're talking about the legalization of other things. And that's I personally see that as being a big black stain on this experiment, right? And going, okay, so you started there. Now you're saying that people can have a certain amount of these hardcore life-ruining drugs and not be persecuted or prosecuted, not be fined or anything. That's uncharted territory that I would rather not experience. And I think a lot of people that are watching this channel are seeing that stuff. And I talk to a lot of people, and I do hear genuine fear in people's voice of wanting to get out of where they are. And I think that's one sad thing. I get a lot of comments, people move out, get out of here, go back to California. And what they don't understand is some of these people are literally political refugees. This is an assault on their beliefs. This is an assault on their morals, on their politics, on everything that's important to them. And they're looking for a place. Of course, as a realtor, I go, okay, but as a human, I go, gosh, man, I was born in Santa Cruz, California. That would be terrible to be at my age going, I have to leave here now. I don't feel safe at all. So, and I think that's why we need to have these important conversations on these topics to find out, get some clarity. And I don't know why, you know, maybe it's just people don't like to read, but I can't find a ton of information. There's articles about different issues, but just a really clear, hey, how does our government feel about this right now? What is the direction we're going? Because I think it gets sensationalized. You know, the articles I read made it sound like our Constitution was going to be amended so that it would never, ever be legalized, ever. You know, and it was like, wait, that's really intense. Is that really how you guys feel about that? Is that really the goal? And it sounds like it's not. So, well, I really appreciate you doing this with me,
no
Julianne.
problem.
I think that I'm really excited to watch your service in our government and see where it takes you. Because yeah, I think that you have something special.
Thank you, Trent. I appreciate the chance to visit.
Thank you very much. We'll
Have a
talk to you
good day.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So what do you guys think? Do you think Julianne Young is representing this well? Do you think that she gave clear answers, or do you feel like it's still a little bit muddy and you're not really sure where the Idaho government stands? I did my best to try to get clear answers and clear information, but it's a little bit tough when you're talking to a public servant that's in government, especially in an elected position. They are professionals at avoiding confrontation and issues that cause arguments. So you feel, I mean, there was a few times I felt like, I think I got the answer, but I don't know if I actually got the answer. So I tried to ask again. Hopefully I did okay. Let me know in the comments. And guys, if you liked what you saw in the video and you are interested in moving to Idaho, make sure you reach out, email, text, call, day, nights, weekends, it does not matter. I'm always here to help people learn more about Idaho and get set up if they decide that Idaho is the place they want to live. So thank you again. Make sure you tap the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Until next time, guys, I will see you later.